Hey folks, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. Let's have a spring garden wrap up and talk about some realities of gardening. It has been nothing but rain here for a week, and we got rain coming tomorrow, and I just haven't been able to get my yard back here trimmed down. It's too mushy. I did get the weed whacker in here and clear out some spots, but man, when the rain comes, it's hard to get out and work in it. But yeah, the rain has really helped the garden though, and it's really helped the weeds as well. I want to show you what our garden looks like here at the end of spring. We're starting to transition into summer crops like those over there, and the spring crops are beginning to slow down. With the exception of the peppers, they are designed to be spring and summer crops. So I want to give you a tour of the garden today, and I also want to talk about the realities of being a gardener. We YouTube gardeners are often said to have perfect gardens, but I tell you what, we have had a year of pestilence here, and we don't have a perfect garden. I want to show you a lot of the pest pressure that I've had this year, and show you that even YouTube gardeners have bad years, or they have pests, or they have things that get really ugly. And wow, I've got them everywhere. Look here at my muscadine grapes. All these brown leaves. I thought this was Japanese beetle problems, but that's not what it is. I have been looking under the leaves and finding these little guys. Can you see that right there? Right there is a little bitty caterpillar. And these guys have been, I don't know if you can see that, these guys have been eating my garden alive. Yeah, I don't know if there's enough leaves on here to ripen the crop of grapes that has come in. So yeah, sometimes you get these real ugly infestations, and that's just that's gardening, that's life. I'm going to treat for these with BT, which is a bacterial insecticide that kills caterpillars. But yeah, these things came on and they're so small I didn't see them at first until it got to this point where I'm like, man, I got to really go out there and inspect those plants. I think it's too late. That's what's killing my grapevines right there. Take care of him. Look at all the grapes that might not ripen. I'm not sure that I have enough leaf mass to collect enough sunlight to ripen all these grapes. This may be a lost crop due to pestilence. Yeah, that makes me real sad. These grapevines are probably at their greatest extent of growing. I don't think they're going to grow much further. This one down here is not as bad. You can see that I've still got some green foliage, but these bugs have gone through the entire place and just destroyed these leaves. I don't know what they are either. They're hard to find. I found that one. There's one right there. There's one right there, two of them actually. Can you see that? That guy right there. 1 and 2. All right, we got to spray. The problem with spraying is it's going to be raining it's starting to rain right now, but it's going to be raining all day tomorrow, so I won't be able to get some spray on here until Monday. Here's my first bed. Look at these Tabasco peppers. This is incredible. The Tabasco's going crazy, and you can see there's a leaf-footed bug. I've had billions of those. This is Malabar spinach, and this Malabar spinach was not even planted here. This is my starting tray, and these spinach plants have rooted out through the holes and are growing in my garden here right next to this eggplant. So yeah, we got Malabar spinach we didn't really plan on. That's just neglect. I failed to move it. Might as well leave it there now though. Here's another Tabasco pepper doing just fine. But you can see with all the rain we've had, I've had to come in here and weed because I've got tons of weed pressure coming in. Things like that. Yeah, weeds everywhere, even where I do have mulch. I didn't mulch this garden because I wanted to be able to weed it with my stirrup hoe. You can see I come in and scuffle the surface here and knock those weeds down. Just leave them there to rot in place. But poblanos are coming in. The peppers have been doing really well for me this year. The peppers have been putting on lots and lots of fruit, and I've been harvesting. Let me show you a problem. Look at this cayenne. It's loaded with peppers, chilies. Tons of these. This is the Flame cayenne, and it is a hybrid from Johnny Seeds. And you can see how big they get. The ones that have got red, I've taken them in the house, but I have found pestilence in some of the fruits. And it's been a learning experience for me. Let me show you what I got.
What on earth is that? There are worms, little caterpillars in this pepper. This is a red flame cayenne, and it's been looking pretty sad for quite some time, sitting here ripening indoors. And I couldn't figure out why until I cut it open. Okay, I found out what these things are. These are called wireworms, and they are the larvae to the click beetle, a particular variety of click beetle. And the way you can tell you have them is when your peppers have just slight cloudy discoloration like that. And it's because these guys are inside munching. So, not good.
So those wireworms that were in my cayenne peppers, they enter through the end of the pepper, the end of the chili pepper. You can see a little hole there, and they eat the insides. Those wireworms are the larvae. They're like mealworms. They're the larvae of a particular kind of click beetle. Now, I like click beetles. I think they're cool. If you've ever seen a click beetle, you flip it over on its back and it pops up into the air until it rights itself, and it makes that loud click noise. Around here we have a large click beetle called the eyed click beetle. It has two little eyes on it. We have the kind that glows in the dark, has the two little lights on the side, and we have a small brown one, and I think that's the kind that have been getting into my peppers. So always cut open your pepper if you think you might have pest problems. Good news with my figs is they're producing very heavily this year, and some of them are beginning to get ripe, and I've had a few. My tomatoes back here are doing well, but they're starting to decline. The heat is just about too much for all of my tomatoes, and so what I did in my last video is I interplanted my summer crops in these tomato beds, and I've got long beans coming up now, so that when I take my tomatoes out, which will be pretty soon, my long beans will already be going. But I am still getting some ripened Edox cherry tomatoes. I have stopped pruning them. I'm just going to let them go now because it's too hot to come out and work for what may or may not be another flush of fruit, when they'll still flush the fruit and the vines can just hang down. Because after that last flush of fruit, I'm not going to get any more tomatoes out of these. I'm going to be pulling them out. So the drop and lean method has worked well. You can see the drop and lean method. By the way, these are my long beans that we planted in the previous video coming up. But there's where the vine starts, and you can see I've pruned and pruned and pruned, and we're running many feet over until we start going up into the air. Same thing with that one. You can see that I've leaned all the vines over, and that gives me more growing length. And you can see those vines down there are starting to send out shoots and suckers. Even when you prune the suckers, sometimes they'll come right on back. And you can see when you don't prune them up, they start to lean over like that. That's okay. But look at these suckers, man. Even when you prune them, they still want to come back. This one could be pruned up again, this main vine right here. We could lean that over a few more feet, but I'm going to wait and see if I get fruit on these blossoms here at the very top. If I don't, then once these fruits ripen up and I take them out, that'll be done. Now on tomatoes, you get these guys. These are leaf-footed bugs, and they are puncturing bugs. They pierce the tomato and they take the moisture out of it. This particular kind is easy to catch. You get some soapy water and you just knock them into it. Usually they fall in, sometimes they fly off. That guy back there. Yeah, they congregate here on tomatoes, and you'll see their nymphs when they're in nymph form. They're orange, and you'll see colonies of them hanging out on tomatoes. If there's a colony of orange bugs on your tomato, those are leaf-footed bug nymphs, and they're not assassin bugs. Assassin bugs tend to look like leaf-footed bug nymphs, but assassin bugs travel alone. They don't travel in packs. So you'll come through here and you'll see a whole bunch of those leaf-footed bugs like that guy right in there, hiding out on your tomatoes, and they will cause trouble for you. They cause discoloration, little marks on the fruit. You can still eat it, but it doesn't look as good. So I knock them into a thing of soapy water, and they do the 50-meter dash and drown. Look at that guy in there. These leaf-footed bugs and stink bugs have been the late season pests. Normally, Normally I don't see stink bugs and leaf-footed bugs until later in the season, but when they show up, they compromise your fruit, and that's no fun. So overall, this bed is doing just fine. I had cucumber beetles in here this year attacking my cucumbers, but yeah, we got a good crop off of those. So now we're growing our peppers and eggplants. These are summer crops here. Everything in this bed should weather the summer and the heat. Here we have our ají charapita pepper, heavily fruiting, lots and lots of fruits down in there. You can see them. That's a pretty spicy pepper. We have our Carmen sweet peppers. These are delicious pepper. I like to roast them. Got our Tabascos, as I showed you, and jalapeno over there. Yeah, this bed's doing great. Overall, I'm pleased with this year's performance of these tomatoes. They produced far more than I could ever have expected. I will be growing the Edox tomato again. It is a delicious cherry tomato, and as you can see, this is just the dregs. This is the end of the season, and it's still heavily laden with lots and lots of fruit. I have had at least 10 gallon-sized bags of fruit in the freezer, not including the ones that I've given away. So yeah, this has been an impressive tomato. There are gaps in here. The heirlooms did not fare so well. I had a heirloom right here, a couple brandywines were in here. Down there where my long beans are coming up, we had some black beauties. They succumbed to the heat really quickly, but the Edox cherry tomato from Johnny Seeds, this one here, which is Granadero, it's a Roma type. You can see the birds have found it. Look how heavily that is producing. And this big beef right here, these are all hybrids, and they're still producing in the heat, at least for now. So what we have here are tomatoes I will grow again. Cowpeas are coming up. That's good. Okra's coming up. Here's our summer crops right here. The okra is a red variety, and I've grown it before. Plenty of okra plants there to give us lots of okra. This right here is a wild amaranth. It's a weed. I'm going to have to come in and scrape those down. But even if I let them go, they're not going to cause too much trouble. And over here are my sweet potatoes, and they're spreading out, starting to grow. So the sweet potato slips we grew did well. So these are also summer crops. And you can see the summer garden's not so pretty. Phoebe, what are you doing over there, huh? Look how tall that grass is. In the spirit of showing you the truth of things, this is the peach tree that we planted and chopped, and it put on new growth. Then we got weeks and weeks of rain, and it's looked like that ever since. I think the hole that was there is not draining, and that plant is sitting in a puddle of stagnant water. That's what I believe, because I didn't find the sands down in that hole amidst my clay that I did on this tree. This tree is doing just fine. And this is a plum tree. Planted the same way, and it's looking a lot better. Phoebe, why you gotta do that, huh? So this one's doing great. We're gonna keep it small, and we're gonna do some summer pruning to knock back the vigorous growth of this plant and keep it small. Over here, my apple trees, you can see they're about 4 feet tall, 3 feet tall. All the apple trees are doing good. These grafts really took off. I'm real pleased with these. We're letting them get as tall as possible this first year, and then next year we'll begin pruning for shape. You see my squash, my winter squash, is growing well. I'm letting it run along the yard, and I'm not cutting the grass. You know, obviously I would cut the vines here, but where the squash is growing, I'm not cutting the grass. It's a little unsightly, but you know, I like it. Okay. You can see I got some butternut Seminole pumpkin hybrids there. I showed you that before. Got a couple others coming in here. And the beauty of this is that these cucurbita machadas can root along the vine. And I found a lot of places where the nodes have taken root down in there. And that's what you want, because when the vine borer comes, and they will, you can see some yellowing in there. Certain vines are going to get drilled by the vine borer and die off. Well, if you've got roots further down the vine, like right here, I think there's some borer damage in here. You can see those yellow leaves. But along here, you've got a vine that's taken root down in the soil down there, and it's looking healthy and green. So that's how you can keep your squash alive. Here is Lucy the lemon tree. You can see she's put on a lot of new growth since she got knocked back by the freeze. really encouraged by this. This is going to be a main branch. We're going to grow that up and prune her, keep her in business. She has grown back all from above the graft union. You can see down there the trunk was pretty thick, and the graft union was below that little divot there, and all the new growth has come up from good Meyer lemon stalk. That's encouraging. Look at all that growth in just a few months though. Isn't that awesome? Watermelon pit, again, summertime, weed pressure. Look at all those weeds growing up in there, that nutsedge. But the watermelon is sending out runners and looks more healthy than it did the last time I showed you this watermelon plant. The last time I showed it to you, it was yellow. Gave it a good dose of nitrogen, fish emulsion, and it's responded by sending runners out far and wide. I accidentally, while I was trimming here the other day, knocked off the only watermelon I could find. And well, it wasn't quite ready to eat, obviously, but at least it was pink inside. This bed here, this raised bed, these flowers I put in as pollinator attractors, they finally took off. Look at that, they're beautiful, aren't they? And this guy, this was a blueberry, thornless blueberry that I thought had died back, but it's come back. This one here has taken off quite well. And there's one over here that actually did die. I put Malabar spinach in there. It's not doing well. You can see my squashes decided to grow over the raised bed. Lauren, your Seminole pumpkin seeds came up like champs, but then they struggled. I think the borers got it. But just today I noticed we've got this fresh vine growing out this way, and it looks nice and healthy. So I'm going to encourage that vine to grow, and I'm going to ground layer it with dirt. See if we can't keep this Seminole pumpkin alive. I really need a Seminole pumpkin. Here's my orange pumpkin patch that came up voluntarily. You can see it's completely and totally blocked my path over here. I have to dump my compost in from the side now into my compost bin. But sometimes I'll find Phoebe hiding out in there. We did harvest a pumpkin out of this today. I'll show that to you. Apart from the vine borers, the caterpillars, the army worms in my tomatoes, the piercing bugs, I have had citrus scale. And you can see I knocked them back significantly by using a neem oil spray, but there's still a little there. I'm gonna have to hit that again when it stops raining. But yeah, pestilence, man, everywhere. We've had all kinds of insects that I've never experienced before. I'm letting the Mizuna go to seed there. The rosemary, man, is going out of control. I really, really enjoy that. There's all kinds of herbs and sage. A lot of it's bolting down in here. That's okay. Herb garden has been very, very healthy this year. That dill's not looking great. But yeah, man, gotta grow some herbs. Citrus is doing relatively well. Got some fruits on there. I probably should thin this out for the size of this tree. But yeah, this is an Awari Satsuma, I think. Yeah. And I've been trying to straighten this tree, but it keeps on putting fruit on that draws it back down. Well, so long as it grows, I'm not going to complain. Pollinator attractor bed did well this year. All kinds of flowers. So in terms of pestilence this year, we've had experience with first the vine borers, knocked back my squash, limited my season. Tons of vine borers this year, and if I was wise, I wouldn't grow squash in this area for another 2 or 3 years. Let those borers that are in the soil, the pupas, let them come out, let them leave my yard and go somewhere else looking for food. But I like pumpkins, so I'll probably just have to keep fighting them. We've had citrus scale. We've had army worms in the tomatoes, and they decimated an entire plant, and I caught them soon enough where they didn't decimate the rest of my tomatoes. But army worms, you got to look for those army worms. I had some army worms in my herb garden here, in my flowering plants, and I saw the frass, that's the poop. Looks like little green balls, tons of it, and I found a big fat army worm there. We've had all kinds of pestilence in our peppers with the wireworms, the click beetle larvae. We've had, did I say citrus scale? We've had citrus scale. We've got the caterpillars now decimating our grapevines over there. And yeah, this year we've just about had every kind of pestilence you can ask for. And oh, cucumber beetles. Cucumber beetles did a number on our cucumbers this spring and really limited what I could do, what I could grow there. Cucumber beetles are a serious pest. So that's a lot to handle in one season. Spring 2021 though, it's pretty much a wrap. It's in the bed, it's done, and it was a success. I couldn't be happier with my tomato harvest this year. I'm still harvesting, and wow, what a great harvest of tomatoes. I couldn't be happier with my peppers. Even though we've got some wireworms, you can cut your peppers open and check them. Lots of good peppers this year, wonderful peppers. I'm really happy with my eggplant, with my spring onions that I grew. Man, those were great to have around. Spring onions, dry those up and you got onions for the rest of the year. And all the herbs we've been growing here on the patio, yeah, it's been a good gardening year, despite the pestilence and despite all the rain we're having. That's just gardening. This is what happens. Your garden's gonna look ugly sometimes, and especially in the summer. In the summertime, it's the ugliest. It's my least favorite time of gardening. I can't wait until the fall. In October, we're really gonna kick off fall gardening, and we're gonna grow some great crops. We're gonna grow some daikon radishes. We're gonna grow some cabbages, and wow, it's gonna be so great, I can't wait. But as for now, it's summer, and we gotta keep plugging along. So we gotta get out here, even if it's hot, and spray for the bugs, and we've gotta take care of our harvests and bring them in a timely manner or they rot. We've gotta get our figs protected or the birds are gonna eat them. And we gotta take out all the weeds. That's hard when it's hot. Anyway, that's our spring garden. Let's call it a wrap. And thank you for joining us on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channel. Hope we've earned your subscription. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. Talk to you next time. Happy gardening.